when you start a business as an entrepreneur, typically you start that business because the thing that you offer is something that you're really good at. So you are a clothing designer. You're great at creating the clothes. You are a cake baker. You're great at making those cakes. You are a web designer. You're great at making websites, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you're also really great at selling. The two skills are totally separate. And in order to do not only survive in business, but to thrive, you need sales.
Welcome to the Spear and Clover podcast, the show where military mindset meets the spirit of the puppy. I'm your host, Jason Skisick, the entrepreneurial evangelist, and each week I bring you the stories of visionaries who see the world as it could be and can't help but take action. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and review. This is the best way to stay in the loop when we drop new content. If you knew the best story ever told, it is your responsibility to write. If you come up with the greatest song of all time, it's your responsibility to sing. If you discover the cure for cancer, it's your responsibility to heal. If you're an expert in any field, it's your responsibility to sell. Jen Gitomer believes that the power of sales can change the world by connecting the best companies with more and more people. I must admit, I totally agree. In this conversation, you'll get a glimpse into her philosophy and methods that have helped many entrepreneurs achieve their calling through effective sales. Regardless of how you view selling, by the end of this podcast, I assure you, you will understand its importance. Please welcome my friend, Jen Gitomer. Jen, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Man, I set you up, didn't I? I was like, you better come out hard. No, that was the first thing that I noticed about you and something that I really like. I call that spirit of the puppy, when people come in hot and are ready to make connections and talk about themselves, talk about others. So I'm really excited about this conversation. Jen, before we dive in, maybe tell the listeners a little bit about what you do, about your business, and what you're here to talk about today.
Yeah. So I help entrepreneurs make more money. It's really simple. Sales and soul are my two main things. I'm all about spiritual stuff. So like last night, I had my husband try cacao for the first time, ceremonial grade cacao. Wow. It was awesome, which is a heart opener, opens you up. Like I do, crazy, what I think is cool, but to other people would call crazy woo kind of stuff. And I combine it with the strategic piece of business. And so I truly believe that in order to be the most successful entrepreneur, you need to be your best self. And how do you be your best self? And that's by becoming a little bit more spiritual and really opening up yourself to these things that can help you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think if I went down the list, we probably have some intersecting, what is that, a Venn diagram? Some intersecting Venn diagram stuff on there. I'm a big believer in working on yourself and working on, your family and your friends as well as the business, right? Everything kind of goes together. So where are you coming from? I know you've grown 3 different businesses. You've been in this business for 15 years. Is that right? Maybe tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial origin story.
Yeah. So when I was 5 years old, maybe even earlier than that, I started making sales. I loved selling. Yeah. I would go to the grocery store with my grandma on Saturdays, and I thought that was super boring because what young kid likes to walk around the grocery store? I didn't. And so I started making bracelets and convinced her to let me sit outside and bring a little table and chair that I would try and sell my bracelets at. Yeah. And what I quickly realized was people didn't want my bracelets. They wanted their bracelet, meaning they didn't just want the bracelet that I woke up that morning and thought, oh, this is cute. They wanted their own colors. And so I would have made a pink one, but some people wanted a green and blue one. And so they started to give me money, and then they would come back the next week to pick up their bracelet. And so from a very young age, I was making sales and earning money and loving it and learning lessons. Fast forward, learned to sell through Cutco. I don't know if you've owned or been sold any Cutco knives. They're literally the best, which I believe decades later, right? And that says everything about how easy they were to sell, because my belief, even when I was selling them, was that deep. And managed salespeople in clothing boutiques, you name it. And then went to a software company where I was hiring and firing sometimes, but running a sales division of a company that became a Fortune 500 company. And I grew tremendously with the growth of that company. I didn't know that I was creating, under the age of 30, I was creating documents and plans that to me, I was kind of like throwing darts at a wall, like, oh, let's try this one. Let's try that one. And I had no idea that what I was doing specifically was impacting the stock price. So
Wow.
they gave me a ton of responsibility, which was amazing. I was second in charge of the sales division, and then eventually decided it was time to start my own business. I always knew I'd be an entrepreneur. I had no idea what I was going to do, and quit my job, became an entrepreneur. And actually, there's a story there, but I'll give it to you at another time. Became an entrepreneur and started helping people make more sales.
So for starters, I got to address Cutco. I'm a Kirby vacuum guy, so never did the Cutco thing, but I did sell, I sold newspaper subscriptions for the Chicago Tribune door to door when I was like 11 or 12. I'd have to really think to come way too early. And the guy that drove us around, it was a total jerk. We made a lot of money. And then I did the Kirby vacuum thing for a little bit as well. It's interesting because I've talked to, conservatively dozens of people who came up through either Cutco or Kirby vacuums or Tupperware or whatever the different things have been. And those programs have created like these amazing sales rock stars. But then you talk about going into maybe a corporate environment and maybe building a program from scratch, maybe for people that didn't do Cutco and weren't selling wristbands and things like that. And so as a coach or as somebody who's built and framed that out, what's the difference between taking somebody who's just a killer and teaching them tactics, and maybe taking somebody who has a small business or a startup or something that maybe sales isn't their primary focus and in their nature? Have you been successful with helping those folks to do sales?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, because when you start a business as an entrepreneur, typically you start that business because the thing that you offer is something that you're really good at. So you are a clothing designer. You're great at creating the clothes. You are a cake baker. You're great at making those cakes. You are a web designer. You're great at making websites, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you're also really great at selling. The two skills are totally separate. And in order to do not only survive in business, but to thrive, you need sales. The podcast I do with my husband is called Sell or Die, because literally you sell or die in business. And we like to get to the point, And so what I have found with so many entrepreneurs is that you're really good at your craft. That doesn't necessarily mean you're also really good at selling your craft. And so what I like to do is, it's really my passion to go in and help those people and understand like the thing that they're good at needs to be put out there to the world and it's your gift. It's your gift, literally, but you don't want to be giving it away for free, because then, you can't continue to give it away, because at some point in time, everyone needs to put a roof over their head and buy food and pay for gas, etc. Right. And so, yeah, that's what I do. And it is a totally different skill, mainly because most entrepreneurs didn't grow up with that background.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So I'll share a little bit of my experience. I had Dr. Mike Risher on the podcast, and he said something that I loved. I forget who the quote was by, but it was a Roman Marcus Aurelius or somebody like that. He was like, Socrates? I don't know. I'm making a fool of myself here, but I don't remember what it was. He said, you have an ethical responsibility to maximize your success to create the biggest impact on the world as you can. Like, that's the thing that I've tried to share with folks, because my background is in fitness. And the thing about fitness, which I talk about often on the show, is people don't get into fitness. They get into fitness to make money, but they get into fitness because they love helping change people's lives. And so when I worked with a sales team, we were 7 years were just passively taking orders when somebody would show up to the gym. But when we really turned things around was when I call it flipping the sales funnel. So instead of talking about how much money we spent to get leads and how many of those converted at the bottom of that to sales, I said, guys, we had 100 people raise their hand and ask us to help change their lives. And we told 90 of them to fuck off last week. How can we fix that? And that was the way that we looked at it with our sales team. And because of that, and when I work with entrepreneurs in the fitness space or otherwise, like you, I'm constantly trying to tie it back to the thing that they care about, the impact they might want to make on the world, right? How have you had success in that way? And you've already kind of agreed that that's sort of your experience.
I learned this when I was hiring salespeople at my former company. I was hiring former teachers for the most part, and we were selling an educational product. And they did not make a lot of money in teaching. So money was not the thing that most of those people cared about, because by hiring them, they were already making more money than teaching. So they were like, yeah, I'm good,
Yeah.
And the thing I brought it back to for them specifically was, as a teacher, you get to impact 23 people. You have a classroom, you're standing in the front of the room, you have those 23 kids for the year. That's your impact. As a salesperson or a business owner, your impact is limitless. You get to decide how many people you're going to impact. So how many people are you going to impact this year? And so if you own a gym and you're like, I want more sales. Okay, cool. You want what? $10,000 more sales, $100,000 more sales, $500,000. Okay, cool. Now let's bring that back to the human element of this. In order to make that amount more money, how many more people do you need to serve? How many more people do you get to serve? Because there's a difference, right? Like, and once you begin to look at it like that, it changes everything. Because now if your goal is, okay, I want to serve, or I get to serve 25 people this month doing my thing. Okay, cool. How are you going to do that? What does that look like? How are you going to put yourself out there? What are the actions you're going to take? But it all starts by creating that goal and by having that mindset going into it of the human element. And I think so many times, and that's why I really like combining the soulfulness of selling, because so often people take the heart out of it. And it's not meant to be, selling is not meant to be a sleazy, icky, uncomfortable thing. Selling is meant to be serving and helping and looking at it from an impact perspective. And when you can see it from that perspective, it really, it changes everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, have you ever met, this is the question, have you ever met a really great salesperson with a long track record of success who was a bad person?
Who was a bad person?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe, but man, I can't think of many. I can't think of many.
Most of them, right, with a long track record of success, what I have noticed is that they serve from their heart. They go above and beyond for their customer. The boundaries may often be actually too little. Mm-hmm. Because they want to serve. They give, their cell phone number and they're reachable at all times. And because that's their heart, that's what they want to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure one or two of them exist out there, but it's not majority, right? It's the majority is that they're good people.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like in the bell curve, it's like the people that are not very successful and the people that are the most successful are usually the ones that are like so keyed in on their mission and their passion for the thing that they're doing. And then there's a bunch of sort of mediocre people that are out there in kind of that gray area. That's really great. Tell me a little bit more about your businesses. Tell me a little bit more about that entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. So I was scared out of my mind. So I said there was a second story there. So when I quit my job, I was going to start a business and I was terrified. Like, oh my God, what if I fail? What if I can't make sales all of a sudden? What if no one buys my offer? Like all these negative self-talk things were going through my head. So I took another job and I don't associate with that job. I was only there for 3 months. It's not on my LinkedIn or anything. It was the worst job on the planet, like the worst job. Okay. And I was the COO and I was second in charge to the CEO and was running the show and responsible for all the sales and everything essentially in the company. And one day the CEO came to me and said, "Hey, I need you to tell everyone we can't make payroll today." And we had just brought in like a lot of money the week before. I'm like, "Oh, well, how come?" He's like, "Well," I'm like, what happened to all the money we just brought in?" He said, "Oh, I took it. It was profit." And I'm like, "That's not profit." And it was that moment that I realized God was telling me that I am scared. I was scared for no reason. That look at how other people are running their business, right? And there were all these other signs that I was being sent. And like, I knew when I had a business, if I had employees, they would eat before me if needed, right? If money was low, they would eat, right? I would figure it out for a week. But it was that moment that I said, okay, I'm out. Like, I am just so out. Like, this is not for me. Like our definition of ethics are very different. And that's a big thing for me. And so I quit and I had the courage at that point to actually start my business. And so that was in 2013. That was a while ago. And I started out just going around and networking, meeting people. And that was my networking grew my business. I was able to meet people who then would introduce me to other people who then would buy from me. And they would buy my sales help. And I didn't have very defined offers at the time. Everything was being defined. I was building the plane and flying it at the same time, for sure. It was hustling a lot. And that laid the groundwork, that laid the foundation. And I went into it knowing I love helping. I love making sales. My sales teams were the top performing teams at my former company. I knew I was good at transferring the message of how to sell and what to do. And so how could I expand my reach? That teacher comment where I told the teachers, like, now you get to impact a lot of people. It started to hit on me that I was helping a sales team of 30 or 40 people where I could then write a book and reach thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And I could create a podcast and like you're doing and create, reach all these people. And it really hit home for me that like the message I had been saying for years was the message that I myself needed to hear. And so it made it very easy to start that business. And honestly, over the past almost 10 years, my business has evolved tremendously because I've evolved. As entrepreneurs, the success of your business is in direct proportion to your personal development, how far along you are on your growth journey. And what I find is the more and most successful entrepreneurs are the ones who actually focus in on themselves and focus in on becoming better people, becoming better communicators, having a better attitude, creating a routine or a regimen for when you wake up in the morning, how you do self-care or soul care. Like all of these things actually impact the way you run your business. And we think of them separate, like, oh, I'm going to do life and then I'm going to do business, but you're one person. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so to me, they're all combined and really, important.
I couldn't agree more. At some point, Jen, we're going to be competitors because you are saying exactly what I believe. I love it. One thing I want to go back to is you talk about being put kind of between a rock and a hard place ethically, where you join this company where I assume your CEO, your COO, your second in command, and you probably had this big opportunity. You're there for 3 months and you find out that there's an ethical conflict. How quickly did that go from a conflict, because I've had this happen. How quickly did that go from a conflict to you like rejoicing that you had been tested ethically and had made the right choice? Like how great did it feel? I don't know for you, but for me, it was like when I put down the phone, I was like, oh, I'm a good person. Like I didn't realize it until right now. Like, did you feel that?
Yes. There was another moment on Thanksgiving. We were all given these big employment contracts that were way too long to be hired. There was another moment where I was asked to ask the entire team to come back on Thanksgiving and make cold calls. And I'm like, Thanksgiving is like one of the actual days in the contract that everyone has off and that they're home with their families. Like I was living in New York City in the office. No one's in New York City at this time. Like everyone went home. Yeah. Well, if I'm making cold calls, everyone else should be too. And I'm like, and I was asked to ask the team to come back.
Yeah.
And I said, look, no one wants a cold call today. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because they're home with their families. But if you think it's really important, and I'm happy to sacrifice my family time, like I'm okay with that. I feel okay about it. I will take an hour and do some calls, but I'm not asking the team. Like I put my foot down to protect the other people, right? Like that there was no way. I hung up that phone call and I was like, whew, I am like, there is no way I'm crossing that line. Then when the other thing happened, it was so obvious to me that this was just not a fit. And I flew home. It was the same weekend. I flew home early from my Thanksgiving family trip, went straight to the office I dropped my bags off at my friend's doorman who lived a block away. I went straight to the office, walked in and quit. And it was immediate, right? Like there was this big thing on a Sunday about the payments. I changed my flight. I had to get it off my chest. I couldn't stay on vacation with my family and enjoy that vacation thinking, what is happening at this job. Like I couldn't be employed there. I didn't sit right. And so the minute I let it go, I felt so good. Like it felt good to change my flight. It felt so good to take that action, and just to go in and be like, thank you for this opportunity. It's not a good fit. Today's my last day.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. So I have so many stories, just little ones that I'm thinking of that I won't bore us with. But one of them that comes to mind is one of my best friend, Arnett, shout out to my brother from another mother. We were running a team up in Detroit and I'm in Chicago, and there's like, I don't know, 30 to 50 people, I don't recall. They were all relying on these checks every Friday. And the checks just didn't come back from the banks. And he refused to come home. He's a newlywed. It's a 4.5-hour drive. He's got 3 employees with him that come back to Chicago every weekend. And he just refused to go home until everybody had been paid. And it was so interesting because this was a team we took over with like 24 hours notice, military style. Like I got a call from somebody who's like, hey, we got this team. It's not going well. Can you take it over? We were there 48 hours later. And again, shout out to Garnett. He took over the boots on the ground. And that guy took, a very challenging staff, a very like low income, not a professional. We were like doing furniture stuff. Like it was labor. And so these folks were not used to having honor in their management. And this guy led them like a damn samurai. It was amazing. And I was just so proud of that, of being involved in that, even if I wasn't the one that was doing it. And I think about that and other moments like that of folks that I respect whenever there's that hard choice of like, well, we could pay him on Monday. No, we're going to pay him today. And here's how we're going to get it done. I forget exactly what he did, but it was crazy. And I just, again, shout out to you for having those ethics. It's such a strong thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you know your value system and you're aware of it, it makes hard decisions easy ones. Like you never have a hard decision ever again. When like to me, you're either ethical or you're not, right? And ethics are important to me. They're very high on my value chart. And so knowing that if something goes against my ethics or trust or whatever, it's not a hard decision. It's so easy because you don't even have to think about it at that point.
Yeah. You talk about your business evolving over the last 15 years since you started it. Maybe talk to us about some of the moments along the path where you felt like you made milestones. Were there things that happened? Was there moments where maybe the dark turned into light and that you can kind of recall for us?
Yeah, there were a couple of moments. So first of all, I'll just say this. Before I even started my business, I had to give a talk at the company I was working at. And I had no idea how to give a talk. I was like, you take public speaking in college, but that's not the same as giving a talk to your peers and people above you in your company, at an all-day presentation. And I was leading the presentation, had no idea. I failed. I bombed. Like I thought you were supposed to start with a joke. So I tried to start with a joke, but I was so nervous that I messed up the joke. And someone on my team had to stand up and try and give the joke. And then I thought you had to memorize your talk. So every time I forgot, it was a disaster. So I left that day very upset and decided that I was going to get good at speaking and took a Dale Carnegie course, a 3-day course where they actually give you opportunities to speak, film you, give you feedback, back for it. Amazing. And when I started my business, originally I was going to coach people. And then I realized that I could go in and give talks. Now I'm a good speaker because I got all this. I turned that shit day, that horrible moment, into this beautiful opportunity to get good at something. And so in the beginning, I was giving talks and coaching sales teams. And this thing happened where one day I just realized that I loved working with entrepreneurs. And so I decided, let me just add entrepreneurs to my sphere of people who I help. And I don't know if you've ever done anything like this, but I didn't want to exclude the people I had already, that had helped me build my business, those sales teams. Mm-hmm. And there's fear too, in that they're paying the bills. I'm going to this new thing. It's like starting a new business when you take on a new audience, a new group of people to serve. And I created a program. It was called Cash Flow to CEO. And it was meant for salespeople who wanted to create more cash, but then entrepreneurs who wanted to create cash flow. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to talk to everybody. I was like, so if you're a CEO, if you're an entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. If you're a salesperson, da, da, da. And I realized through the course of that when you try to talk to everybody, you're actually talking to no one. And it was this tough moment of, what do? I want to help entrepreneurs. That's who I really, really want to serve. but I don't want to abandon the salespeople. But I can't help these entrepreneurs if I'm also trying to talk to the salespeople, because it's a different message.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tough choice. And so I guess, for the listener, who are you clear on who you serve? Are you clear? And do they know that's who you serve? Like, could they just say, oh yeah, that's who they help? Like, it's an easy message to translate to other people, because that is so critical to making more sales, is knowing who you serve and being okay with it, loving it.
Yeah. And for the record, I admire your choice, because I know that between those two groups, right, there's people who probably are like inclined to sell, and maybe they believe in the message, maybe they don't. But then there's people who are like, man, I don't know how to sell, but I got to fly this flag. Like, I love that you're up on the mountain with those folks, taking them higher and higher. So that's such an admirable thing that you're doing. And so where did that go from there? I know you mentioned a book. Tell us about your book. Tell us about how that process was. Because before I let you go, because I'm thinking about it, because the same thing, as an entrepreneur, the thing that always has run through my head is scale. And so like podcasting and books are on my mind lately.
Yeah. So I wrote this book called Sales in a New York Minute, and it's really nicely designed. Like, the pages are easy to read. Mm-hmm. And it's 212 pages of real world and easy to implement strategies to make more sales, build loyal relationships, and make more money. And so every 2 pages or so is a quick little vignette on how to make more sales and what to do. And interesting thing about this book, it took me, I think, about 2 years to write, and 60 to 80% of the book was written in the last couple of months, when the publisher was like, okay, so we have shelf space and it starts on this date and we have to get it in the deadline. There's a deadline. And so if you're going to write a book or do anything, like launch a podcast or whatever, like, give yourself a deadline, because without one, you'll just be doing it I would still be writing this book if there was not a deadline for it. Because you always want to make it better, and you always want to make it quote unquote perfect. But what is perfect, right? There's never going to be perfect. So to me, it's progress over perfection. And especially as entrepreneurs, right? We can get so caught up in this, I want it to be perfect before it goes out to my potential buyers. And the truth is, like, your potential buyers are very understanding. And as long as you communicate and give exactly what you said you would deliver, that's okay. Like, there are times where I launch programs and I'll tell people, you're a founding member, so I am building this with you and around your needs. It is not created. It's like the theories, the strategies, everything has been tried and tested, and that's what I'm going to deliver. But the actual content is being created around you and your needs. And that's a benefit to them, that they get to ask questions and have it built around them as founding members, right? And I love to create stuff like that. And I offer that. And I invite a lot of my clients to do that kind of model when they're launching digital courses or memberships, because otherwise they'll spend a year creating something and have no idea if there's a market out there to buy it. So let's sell the thing first and then monetize before you make it.
Today's show is brought to you by High Level CRM. High Level is an all-in-one platform designed to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses without the need for multiple softwares or an IT team. Not only does their easy-to-use software allow you to track and manage your leads throughout each phase of the relationship, but it also allows you to build funnels, track stats, and more. Guys, I sat down and added up the cost of software I was able to replace with just one app, and it was over $1,000 per month. Because this is an all-in-one application, I also save a ton of headaches connecting apps and building automations, and the team at Go High Level does a great job of getting you started quickly and easily when you sign on. I cannot more highly recommend these guys. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners get a free 14-day trial of High Level CRM for themselves. Click the link in our show notes to support the show and get started on your free 14-day trial today. I'm super excited that today's show is brought to you by the Global School of Entrepreneurship. Most practicing entrepreneurs cannot take 2 years away from their growing business to attend a full-time campus-based program or spend every weekend away from family and business for a couple of years. Finally, there's an accredited program specifically designed for you to work on and grow your business while completing your MBA. The GSE MBA complements the needs and schedules of someone actively engaged in an entrepreneurial venture while still covering the accredited curriculum expected from any MBA program. The Global School of Entrepreneurship offers a unique offering called the Mastermind to MBA program. It consists of 10 students who work together in a forum-style cohort and meet every other week for a year. The GSE MBA helps you develop skills in critical thinking and strategic planning. Students also develop competencies in leadership, decision-making, and communication with both employees as well as the important stakeholders in your business. You will be exposed to world-class academics and fascinating guest lecturers. You'll work on your business while working in your business. Students are guided by real-world entrepreneurs with decades of experience starting and scaling businesses just like yours. Best of all, I'm beyond proud to announce that the Global School of Entrepreneurship has agreed to offer one Spear and Clover listener a scholarship to join an upcoming Mastermind to MBA cohort. They are looking for someone just like you to bring a unique perspective to the program, and they are accepting applications right now. To learn more and to apply, simply go to www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Don't miss this opportunity to level yourself up and surround yourself with other like-minded entrepreneurs just like you. Once again, to apply for the GSE MBA Spear and Clover Scholarship, simply visit www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Today's show is brought to you by Scaling with Media. I mean, literally, like if it weren't for the folks at Scaling with Media, you would not be getting this. Scaling with Media is a truly revolutionary company for any entrepreneur who wants to reach a larger audience without taking on the years of experience necessary to master the required skills. These guys do it all. From helping you develop your creative plan to editing, sourcing content, copywriting, ads management, and way more. Whether you're looking to launch a YouTube channel or podcast, or you just want to scale your business out to more eyeballs, these guys are the absolute best one-stop shop. But that's not all. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners who sign up for their brand launch package will receive a free professional grade studio kit that I'm actually recording right now on. The studio kit includes a professional microphone, stand, lighting, and headphones, and is worth well over $500. Take action now by going to scalingwithmedia.com/spear and claim your free studio kit. Again, that's scalingwithmedia.com/spear, scalingwithmedia.com/spear. Now back to the show. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. Also, one thing I would note is I think there's levels to professionals and entrepreneurs. And it's one of those things where it's great if you know all the rules of the game, but it's really great if you've been around all the best people in sales, which I know for a fact you have. And I know that I've been blessed to be around some of the best salespeople in the world. And then you have a synthesized point of view that's different. And that's what's beautiful about it is, like I mentioned as a joke, being competitors, but there's no way. Because I know that if I pick up Jen Gitomer's book, I'm going to get Jen Gitomer's point of view. Just like if you pick up my book, if I were to write one day, you're going to get my point of view. And it's just so interesting. I have a friend, Kenny Kane, who's been a podcaster, and he's been a stand-up comedian. He's owned gyms for 18 years. And he recently has had a ton of success, maybe the most success, I'm just speaking out of turn here, that he's had in his career with a really cool project. And it's effortless. It's like, man, I worked so hard for the last 20, 30 years, becoming the person that now when I'm ready to have this point of view and really put it out there, it's like, I can just stand up there and talk, and it's easy. And so just listening to you talk, I can imagine that you've synthesized that, you have this point of view. And I just think that anybody who picks up your book is going to be in for a real treat.
Oh, thank you. That's what a lot of my clients have been saying lately about their business, it being easy. I have a client who sold this product, and she always felt like selling that product was difficult, even though it was aligned. She felt that it was just a hard sell for some reason. And she switched gears this year after our mastermind retreat, and she changed to offer a service for moms. And she's a mom and she loves being a mom. And she was like, wait, I can do this as a business. This is so easy. I get to wake up every day and do help people with their closets and dress them up and style them and show them how to create a good skincare routine and do all these things that cause she does them for herself and she's really, really good at it. And I'm like, now she's selling it as a service. She's like, and it's easy. And it's because it took her this time, right, through that product to grow into that person who she needed to be in order to make it easy, right? If she had tried to do this business, this version of the business a couple of years ago, it may not have taken off because she was still busy becoming that person. And I think for entrepreneurs, like if it feels out of alignment, if it feels hard, if it feels like you're always struggling, it's because it is. And it doesn't have to be that way at all. Like it doesn't have to be that way. You get to choose for it to be easy. There are people who make a shit ton of money and sit on a yacht all day. Okay. Yeah. And they're not worried about where their next like couple $1,000s are coming from. So you get to make it easy. It's a choice.
That's really, really insightful. And I think if you're listening to this at home and if you think about it, there's got to be a bunch of examples of that because I certainly have plenty. You mentioned this woman working with moms. Who do you serve? Tell me a little bit about your avatar. Like who's listening to this that you can just knock the cover off the ball with?
Yeah. So if you're a service-based entrepreneur, I'm likely your girl. Meaning if you sell a service like copywriting, photography, digital marketing services, stylist, you name it, right? If you sell a service, I can help you. And I typically work more with women than men. I will help men. It's not that I'm like, I don't say no unless they're a jerk, but I also say no to female jerks too. So I'm an equally against jerks. So yeah. And it's just so fun for me because I focus on a lot of my work is on selling high ticket. I make some very high ticket sales and I'm talking about $100,000, $45,000, in one chunk, right? And $10,000, even that's high ticket, $5,000, that's high ticket. So anytime you're doing a sale like that, it typically requires a relationship. Well, it requires belief in whatever it is you're selling. It requires a relationship with the person that you're selling it to. It's typically not transactional. Like most people don't just drop $100,000 and then say peace out to the person that sold it to them. There's some sort of trust, rapport, relationship that's been built there. And there's a finesse to it. And you have to keep your eye on the outcome at all times. It's like it's like a military operation in a sense. Like you have an outcome that you want, right, to achieve. And you're going to get there, whether you're doing plan A, plan B, plan C, whatever it is, you're going to get there. And I'm the same way with the sale. If I am convinced I can help someone, I know that I'm going to help them. And then I have to figure out how to convince them that I'm going to help them and at the price that I want or at my client's price. And so I serve a lot of female entrepreneurs, mostly service-based, who are selling ongoing services or higher ticket stuff and want help with that sales conversation or that sales process. Also, entrepreneurs who just want to improve themselves. Like I host these retreats in Sedona. I'm going to start to host them all over, but the next one's in Sedona in September. And it is a life-changing transformational retreat because all of the women who came on the last one, like came as themselves, right? And they are already beautiful, but left glowing. They're out, like you can see the outside of their skin was literally glowing because of all the crap that they released from their body. Stories that I'm all about stories. And I know you had Mark England on your podcast and I've taken his certification before. I love Mark, by the way. The guys at Enlifted, the team at Enlifted, they're amazing. And what they've taught me is how to help someone with story work, meaning there are things that have happened to every single person in their lifetime that have impacted who they are today, good or bad, right? I was told I'm great at selling. I believed it. Great. Look how that worked out really well. I was told that I can't sing and I don't have the voice for singing. Well, guess what? I'm not a singer. I've carried that story with me. I'm not upset about that one. There's no charge to it, but there are things that we do that do matter more, right? That we do carry, that do impact us and get in the way of, especially as entrepreneurs, achievement of what it is that you want. And so what I'm able to do is help my clients uncover those stories and then breathe through them, use this technique that the Enlifted team has created to breathe through those stories and actually see them from a new perspective. See the good, bad, and the ugly, feel it, really feel it, see what else comes up in that moment and what other stories may have impacted exactly where you are today. And then break through those limiting beliefs, break through those obstacles. Because, okay, let's say someone listening right now, I don't know, you want to get business online, but you're afraid to show up consistently online because it has some meaning in your head. And so there's some like reasons, there's something preventing you from showing up every day. Well, what we would do is we would go through and figure out what is it? How do we, we could put a mask on it. We could put a Band-Aid on it and we could just try to get you to push through it and hustle through it. But at some point that doesn't work, right? Or if it did work, you wouldn't be in that position. And so what we have to do is really go backwards to go forwards and uncover what it is that's blocking you from really getting what you want.
Yeah, I love that so much. Also, shout out to Mark. He's one of the most focused entrepreneurs that I know, where it's like you don't even talk to him about anything but helping people improve the language building blocks and the way they tell their story and the way that they think about their story. And he is just so focused on it. So if you haven't looked into it, Mark England and Lifted Coaches, fantastic. And I've met several folks that are clients of his that are awesome as well. But you also mentioned something else, and you only said it once and it was quick, but you said limiting beliefs. And I think this is something typically that especially struggling entrepreneurs put shields up when they hear that term, limiting beliefs. Nothing's limiting me. I'm the shit. I know what I'm doing. I'm here to take names and kick ass or whatever. And one of the things I will tell you is, man, did I hit a fast forward button on my success when instead of looking for the lack of limiting beliefs, where I started hunting for limiting beliefs. Like, what is the speed limit today? Like, what is the thing today that is like, limiting me? I'm going 120 miles an hour. Like, what's the reason why I'm not going 125? Like, and I just love so much that you brought that up. Go ahead. I love that.
There's two extremes. There's the person that thinks they have no limiting beliefs and everything's good, right? And then there's the extreme of I have limiting beliefs, so I need to search for my limiting beliefs. And then the belief that you have limiting beliefs becomes a limiting belief in itself. Yeah. And so there's literally those two extremes. And the fact is everyone has a limiting belief of some sort. So if you think you have none, congratulations, you're wrong. Yeah. And there's something out there that's limiting you, unless you're in the exact place you thought you'd be at the exact time you thought you'd be at, and everything's in your life is working out just perfectly, right? If not, then there may be some sort of belief that you're not even hearing because it's been played over so many times in your head, like broken record. And that's what they become. These thoughts become these beliefs. And sometimes they're innocent thoughts. Sometimes it's just like grandma saying at church, and now someone's shutting down their voice, right? Because she said shush. And it's like this innocent moment where if grandma had known, she never would have shushed her grandchild, right? But like, as a child, we're sponges and we pick everything up. And sometimes we make the wrong interpretations of things. And so now you can get to go back as an adult and look at those situations and say, oh, wait, that's kind of funny. That's when I lost my voice. Okay, well, that grandma didn't mean anything by that. So like, let's restart this now. I'm over it, right? And it's sometimes it can be as simple as that. Other times it can be a little bit painful because we've been most people live with these limiting beliefs for so long that they don't even realize it. And then when they realize it, it's painful coming out because it's like, it's an open wound, and it needs to heal. But yeah, that's why I say that as an entrepreneur, your business success is in direct proportion to your personal success, your personal growth, your personal development, because the two are really tied hand in hand. And those limiting beliefs or beliefs in general are the things that will either create or inhibit your success.
Yeah, I talk sometimes about a 3-chambered heart, and it's like your business or your career, your family and social life, and then yourself. And like, if you take blood away from one, it hurts the rest, right? And it's just such an interesting thing. Like, I don't know anybody who's really killing it, who's like, doesn't have a social life or a family life. I don't know anybody who's really killing it, who like won't look in the mirror at what they do or believe or how they feel about the world or what their position in the universe is. So hearing you talk about that again, just is such a breath of fresh air. And I think that I've been very fortunate that almost every single person I've had on this show shares that. I've heard so many different iterations of that from folks that I've had on this show, and it's been very rewarding. It should go without saying that like some of the best salespeople are female, but you did talk about, typically your avatar, the folks that you work with and have connected with most have been female entrepreneurs. Is there a difference in the way that you go about those relationships? Is there a difference in the energy, in the styles that you wanted to point to? Genuinely, like you're one of them. I know some unbelievable female salespeople that make me look like I don't know what I'm doing. So I don't know, maybe if you could react to that.
So I will generalize here. And
Yeah.
yes, I have witnessed a difference. I do a mastermind with my husband, and then I have a female only mastermind in my business. And the mastermind with my husband, it's really high level, like strategy and, like, we're gonna, and in my mastermind, I don't know whether to buy one box of tissues or 3, because there's going to be a lot of crying and laughing, but it's a lot of release. And I find that when women are together in more so female only groups, they're able to be more vulnerable and let go of the shit that they've been holding on to. I think men should do it too. I just don't see them doing it.
I do.
And maybe
Just
they do it with themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe they do it with, maybe y'all have a man's thing where you go cry. I don't know. Maybe or maybe you get it out in other ways, right?
We fight.
But yeah, you fight. Exactly. Yeah. But in general, if you think about it, okay, they say it's a man's world. I can argue that either way. I think that I believe in full that women can be just as successful as males if they want to be. Okay. We may not start out with an equal opportunity, but you have the ability to create that opportunity for yourself, no matter what gender you are or what history or what, like, there are always ways, especially in our beautiful country of America. Okay. That's number one. Number two is, and I, at my former company, I did work with some women who were like, oh, that glass ceiling. And I'm like, what glass ceiling? If you keep thinking about the glass ceiling, then you're envisioning it in your head and it's blocking you. Stop thinking about the glass ceiling and just start thinking about taking a big ass hammer and whacking through it. I don't know if hammer is the right tool, but I'm a girl and I don't care, right? Like, I could throw my stiletto heel through it. I'm not thinking, I never thought about the glass ceiling, and it wasn't a blockage for me. It didn't prevent me. Whereas the women who did think about it, talked about it, moaned about it, something held them back. I'm not saying it was necessarily that, but they were holding themselves back from those thoughts, right? And you could argue, but no, we could argue this all day long. If you want to be successful, stop focusing on the things you don't want and start focusing on the things you do want. And in the retreats that I host that are women only, we do things that really open you up to this new life of possibility and belief that you can do anything, whether you're male or female or whatever you want to be, right? And so there's modalities like sound healing and breath work and climbing a mountain and getting to the freaking top. Like, there's various different things that I do to help people release and renew and then redesign exactly what they want and then rejoice. And so it's a 4-part method, and that's where I'm able to take them. And it doesn't, I think the women can't go as far thing is only if you want to believe that and you get to choose.
Yeah, I mean, that can be applied to short people. That can be applied to skin color. It can be applied to anything, right?
Yeah, anything.
And these things are not fictitious, but they're only as impactful as you allow them to be, right? And another point that you've brought up several times, and something I believe deeply in, is masterminding, not just or events or summits or whatever, not just with people in your industry, but with people that you're aligned with. That the word harmony comes to mind. Like, when I've probably definitely put mid 6 figures into personal development and business development and going to masterminds and events and being involved in groups and info product and all the other stuff, just like a lot of entrepreneurs out there. And I will tell you, there's been maybe 3 times where my whole soul quivered, like, man, did it hit right? I was vibrating from that experience. I remember, and what you're describing is that, for those folks that show up to the right place with the right person to lead or administer this in the right, Sedona's not the worst place, right? And it's the same for me. Shout out to Scott Ramage and Brotherhood of Fatherhood. They're doing a summit for men, and it's in Montana, and there's going to be shooting, and there's going to be jujitsu, and there's going to be hiking and rucking rather. And it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely one person, or there's somebody out there right now listening to this that totally needs to be in Sedona. And there's somebody out there listening to this right now that totally needs to be, I think it's Montana. But either way, I'm so pumped every time I hear about somebody, because this is something that's close to my heart, that's creating an opportunity to find that group and provide them with an experience much like the ones that have changed my life. So again, shout out to you for that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Masterminding is a big thing. And especially as an entrepreneur, it feels like sometimes you're on this road alone, and you don't have to be on this road alone. You can be in a peer-led mastermind with other amazing entrepreneurs that you cultivate and bring together. You can be in a group with a leader that's paid, like the one you're in or the one I host, or, all that kind of thing. There's all these different ways to create community and join community. And the most important thing is that you don't have to be alone.
Yeah. And the nice thing too is, you start to put on your bottom line glasses. And by the way, just shout out to like EO, which is a global not-for-profit organization that I know many people that are involved in. It does cost money. It's not for profit, but it does cost money. But the nice thing about B2B, the nice thing about these types of businesses like you run and like I've ran and may run again and et cetera, is you're buying money. I don't know anybody who loses money on a good version of that, whether it's a mastermind or a product that fits.
Every time I've invested personally in a mastermind, and they're, $20,000 to $25,000, however much money, right? I've always up leveled and made that money back and more. And that is my goal too, for everyone who invests in my group is to do the same for them, is to help them do the same. Because when you put that, money is energy, money is a frequency. And when you put that vibration out into the world and you say, okay, basically you're betting on yourself, and you're betting that this coach and this community and this framework is going to help you. If you just showed up for free, it's not the same. But the minute you begin to put money down, it changes everything. And by putting it out, it's going to come back. Okay. I really believe that.
I totally agree with you. In my former business, I used to tell clients, I'd be like, look, like at that moment when there maybe was a price objection, I'd be like, look, if you want to make more money, I'll just double the price. And I say that like with full on belief that like genuinely, the more you pay for this, the more effort you'll put into it, because entrepreneurs can do anything. And so it's more, can I get you off the couch? Can I get you really focused? Right.
Yeah. It's about like, we get comfortably uncomfortable. Comfortably uncomfortable when we're in a comfort box, when we're in a comfort zone, or I call it a comfort box, like, because you're like, but once you step out of that box and push yourself out of that box, that's like really the key. No one's going to stand behind you and like push you as an entrepreneur. You have to push yourself. It's a lot easier to then start making the money and doing the things that you want to achieve.
Yeah. And I used to always think about, I have like a positive chip on my shoulder sometimes.
I love that.
It's like a positive chip. Like it's the same with, if I'm doing jujitsu or if I'm in business competing with a friend who owns a local business that maybe is a competitor. I have a friendly chip on my shoulder. I want to hug you. I want to go on a trip with you. I want to cook at a barbecue with you, but I want to smash you in that thing we're competing. Whatever. Just like, I don't know what it is, but I've got that. I know some other folks I've talked to have it, but I just love the idea of like, I went to this summit. We're going to do it every year or every quarter or whatever it is. I'm not coming back with no stories, because the other 10 people are going to come back with stories about obstacles they've overcome or new things. And that gave me this like external accountability. And it's just so great to see like other people benefiting from it. Somebody like you providing it for folks. I just, it's very, very close to my heart for sure.
Yeah. I love the idea of a positive chip on your shoulder. It feels more like a potato chip than like an actual dent.
Sure.
It feels like I really love the visual of that and love that. Attitude is just one of my key things too, because there are things as entrepreneurs that can knock us out every single day. Sale doesn't go your way, customer doesn't renew, customer leaves, employee quits, employee doesn't show up, project's not getting done on time. I mean, there's so many things, and it's your choice on how you get to react to something and how you get to see it as either a shitstorm or an opportunity to serve. And we're just talking about this with another client, and, they're in the service business and they literally deal with that every day. Every single day they deal with issues that they're helping their customers with. And when the customer comes all like freaked out, you get to decide, like, are you going to sit there and trauma bond and be in their exact emotion and be like, oh my God, the world is falling apart.
Yeah.
Or are you going to be like, okay, I got you. I hear you. This sucks. We're going to fix this. We're going to make it better. And if you're in the service business, you get to solve problems. That's your job. You get to solve problems and you get paid to solve problems. And so I'm not like focused on the pain, but more so I'm focused on what is the solution that you're offering and how can you really create that focus.
Yeah. And the more experience you get to also lend them your confidence and your credibility and your, conviction, right? The 3 C's.
Yeah.
Like this is what I do. Like if I'm owning a gym and somebody comes in and says, oh my God, I can't lose 20 pounds. It's been 15 years since I was my weight that I want to be. And it's like, yeah, that's what I do. Look at my face. Like there's just like, as soon as I realized that, same thing with being an entrepreneur's coach or something, it's like, oh, I don't know how we're possibly going to hire a new admin that meets our core values. It's like, oh yeah, well, that's like what we're on the phone for. So like, let's talk about it. We do it all the time.
Right. We got this. Okay. Yeah. What are your core values? Like, let's just start here. Like, what are they? Like,
Yeah. So Jen, I could talk to you all day, but there are 2 questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and I'm going to ask them to you now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So the first question is, if you had access to unlimited capital, how would you profitably grow your current businesses?
Ooh, this is a great question. I would use that capital to create more scalable products, like more courses and stuff that don't require me all the time. And I love doing this with my service-based entrepreneurs when they're like, oh my God, I'm trading time for dollars. I'm trading time for dollars. I can't make more money because I don't have more time. And then we figure out, okay, what are other streams of revenue? And so I would actually expand my other streams of revenue and quicker. So I'm in the process of doing that more right now, but if I had more capital, I would do that more quickly. And I would invest in other things like more real estate, maybe Bitcoin, some of these other things that are out there, because I don't believe that our business should be our only stream of revenue. I believe that it should be one of potentially 6 or 7 different streams so that you have a safety net. No matter what happens in this world, you have money coming in from various different places. And if you're an entrepreneur once, you can be an entrepreneur twice. It's easy.
You're undeniable. I love that word. That word echoes through my brain, just bounces around.
Oh,
undeniable.
Thank you.
Scale and undeniable. I love that. 2, if you had to give up your current businesses and anything you've done in the past and start something completely new that you've never done before, what do you think that might be?
I would start don't you love that I know this answer like right away? I would start a tennis business where I would create adult tennis camps and tennis tournaments all over the country.
That's a terrific answer. I love it. Jen, one more time for everybody. Who do you serve and how can they find you? Because a lot of folks that listen to this podcast, and there are going to be millions, Jen, are going to want to reach out.
Amazing. Okay. Female entrepreneurs, if you're selling a service, I want to help you. Come chat with me on Instagram. I respond to all my messages. I love when you message me. I'm at Jen Gitomer. Just send me a DM. I will message you back with my voice so you know it's me. And let's hang out. You can go to jengitomer.com, grab some of my freebies, jengitomer.com/sageyoursoul if you're interested in the retreat, and just message me on Instagram and I'll give you a gift for saying, hey.
And your book is Sales in a New York Minute. Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
Awesome. Jen, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to show us some love by liking, rating, and subscribing so we can keep making more and better content. If you'd like to support the show and get a great additional content like exclusive shows and even live group masterminds, please head over to patreon.com/Spear and Clover to become a member of the tribe. If you're interested in learning more about how we help entrepreneurs, visit spearandclover.com or message us on any of our platforms. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.